We are really a small city within a city. I started at the University of New Mexico as a student in the late 70s. My goal was to get a degree in business administration. I tell everybody my dream job was to be a corporate accountant at Disneyland. When I came to UNM, I didn't even know UNM had police officers. While I was going to school here, I actually was a freelance disc jockey. There was a police officer that would come in and request songs, and so he and I started talking and kind of developing a relationship. But one of the things that he told me one day in conversation, he says, you know, you can't be spinning records for the rest of your life. What really gravitated me to his conversation was his passion of being a police officer. So he kept working on me over about, the 6-month period of time. So I did. I went down to the Albuquerque Police Department, filled out an interest card, and I tell everybody the rest is history. Back in the 80s, it was a very pro profession that the community really supported you and so on and so forth. Completely different than what it is now. Goal always at the police department was just to do the best job that I could, and the rest would take care of itself. When the Albuquerque Police Department went to community policing, I got to be involved in community policing from the ground up in Albuquerque. It took a lot of building trust and working communication and working on projects together. And then once people see that you really do have a vested interest in the community, they start opening up to you. That's a really, really big challenge in a university setting. What does that really mean, community policing? I think the book definition is, engaging the community in addressing not just the crimes that are going on, but the public safety issues that are around campus and the quality of life issues as well. One of the biggest challenges is in a university setting is that we're looking more from the perspective of community policing rather than enforcement. So one of the things that we're working with is something that mimics kind of the Neighborhood Watch program, where you still have community input and activity in addressing some of the safety concerns around campus, because that's key to that. I mean, we can sit here in the police department and say, well, this is a safety issue, that's a safety issue, but if the community is facing things day in and day out that doesn't have anything to do with what we're thinking is an issue, then are we really being effective as a police department? So far, we have a lot of interest in it. The things that are going on in the city, those bleed into the campus, right? Because we're in the urban environment. So whatever's going on around the university ultimately can end up on campus, and we have to deal with those things. When we're looking at what trends we need to address on campus, as we look at what trends are happening around us in the city of Albuquerque, and how can we address those before they come onto campus. Since I've been here, it's changed quite a bit. The calls for service have drastically increased, almost over a third than when I started. And that's a good thing, I think, because one of the things that we really push the message out for the police department is if you see something, say something. And so I think people are calling us more, they're trusting us more. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think that helps out. Campus-wide, what is one of the biggest occurrences that happens, and that's property crimes. That's what we're looking for and trying to prevent and curb some of the crimes that are happening in the parking lot area. Now there's a lot more person-on-person violent crimes. And so how do you prevent those? One of the philosophies I say is O.W. Wilson talking about the broken window theory. If you don't address the little things that happen, you end up having to address the big things. Some do just happen spontaneously, right? But over time, if you don't address like assaults where people are just yelling at each other and stuff, ultimately then it leads to a violent crime. And that's what we're trying to do here on campus, is addressing more of the nuisance things. And the more nuisance things that we can address, we're hoping that we don't have to address the more serious crimes later on. Police can't do it themselves. And really, to address some of the problems and issues and concerns in our community, it takes the community. And one of the tenets of community policing is the police are the community and the community are police. And so I always challenge people within our community, what can you do personally to address some of the issues and concerns around campus? We want to develop a culture that everybody has, really public safety in mind. And really that's how you address those issues. You're going to leave a legacy. And so what legacy do you want to leave behind? And so the legacy I want to leave behind is that I made a difference. Don't know what the future holds, but if this is the twilight of my career as law enforcement, what better way to end my career than the place that I started out?